Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave an incredible press conference where a bunch of reporters asked him some questions. And a few of these questions were pretty outrageous. Check out his responses to these just outrageous reporters.
The mother of... Can you hear me, sir?
Sure.
The mother of Almog Sarusi, one of the murdered hostages, says you sacrificed her son on the altar of the Philadelphia corridor. If the price of your refusal to withdraw from the Egypt-Gaza border is more hostages are killed, is that a price you are prepared to pay? And is that a price the people of Israel will accept?
I can understand the great torment that the mother of this murdered hostage feels. I can understand her rage. I can understand her sorrow. So I'm not going to stand in judgment of that. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to talk about the facts. I'm committed to getting all of them out. I got more than half out, and more than half of the hostages alive out because we employed the pressure points. We leave the pressure, we're going to get no one out. I'm committed as the Prime Minister of Israel to two things. They're right here. The first one is to achieve the release of the hostages, and the second is to protect the security of Israel and make sure that we have no more hostage taking, no more murders, no more rapes, and no more rocketing of Israel. Both of them. We have to have this and this together. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm committed to do.
If I can follow up, sir, if the Philadelphia corridor is so critical as you say, why is it you left it 7-8 months into the Israeli ground offensive before seizing it?
Well, it was critical also to destroy Hamas, to kill about 20,000 of their operatives, to kill their senior military commanders, to get Gaza City, to get the Shifa Hospital, which was a major headquarters, to get Khan Yunis, to get the central camps, and to get Rafah, obviously. So this was the military plan that the military and the political echelon agreed upon. We were never going to leave, I was never going to leave Rafah alone, and you know that. And I was also not going to leave Philadelphia alone. I said that 20 years ago. I said it's critical that we not leave Philadelphia. When Sharon did the disengagement, I said we have to get there. So we got there. It took a while to do, but it was a progression of military advancement that produced the result. So we're there now. Now once we're in, now we'll leave? You know we'll leave, we won't come back. You know it, everybody here knows it. Everybody here knows what pressure will be brought on us so that we don't come back. What price we'll have to pay if we do want to come back. It's just not going to happen. We're going to be there, despite the pressure.
Boom. Brilliant job by Benjamin Netanyahu there. Just, no, I'm not going to fall for your little traps. I'm not going to, give into your little antagonizing questions. You're going to say that I'm a hostage killer. Well, they're the ones that took the hostages. They're the ones that are the enemy. They're the ones that kill babies. Brilliant job by Netanyahu there. And then he was asked more questions as you go along. Every single question is more crazy than the next.
CNN, please.
This is Prime Minister Jeremy Diamond, CNN. I spoke to Aviva Siegel tonight, a former hostage whose husband is still being held in Gaza. She told me that she believes that you are sentencing her husband, Keith, to die by prioritizing the Philadelphia corridor over a deal. And she has this question for you. Is Keith going to come home alive or dead?
I'll do everything to make sure that Keith and all the other hostages come back. I'm telling you that if we relieve the pressure, if we get out of the Philadelphia corridor, we're not going to get the hostages back. Certainly we're going to condemn a lot of them to stay there. We could get a few out. They'll give us that. But they'll leave a lot with them. We won't have the pressure point. And something else will happen. We will not be able to come back. So we won't release all the hostages. And we won't achieve the defenses that we must have to prevent more October 7th again and again and again. That is my responsibility. I can understand the torment of families. They don't, none of them believe that we'll get the hostages in the first batch either. None of them, few of them, quite a few of them didn't believe it. And they came and they said, you have to get them out, you have to get them out. You're not going to give them out, you have to make this concession or that concession. I didn't make those concessions, and we got them out. So it's very hard, I don't stand in judgment of these tormented souls, because they're undergoing an agony that is hard to fathom, and I understand that. But the responsibility of leaders is not merely to share the sentiment, the emotion, but also to exercise judgment, the correct judgment, to make sure that these horrors do not happen again. I believe that our strategy is the best way to achieve both goals, both freeing the hostages, and ensuring that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again.
Thank you. Bloomberg.
Again, a brilliant answer. Like, I acknowledge the pain. He has to sort of say, listen, the emotions, there's going to be emotions. People's family members are kidnapped. But as a leader, am I going to prioritize 100 hostages, or am I going to prioritize millions and millions of Jews who live under our, in our country, all of our citizens, right? You have to sort of put aside the emotions of the few in order to serve the many. And the idea that Israel should sacrifice its war in order for these family, members to come home is just going to result in more and more bloodshed down the line. Just like the Gilad Shalit deal, where they released 1,000 terrorists for one Gilad Shalit, and a bunch of those people became Hamas terrorist leaders. So giving in, appeasing the terrorists, always bites you in the back of the head. It never works. And Netanyahu knows that more than anyone.
Dan Williams.
Thank you. Dan Williams from Bloomberg. Back in April, you said Israel was but a step away from victory. A month later, your national security advisor said the war would last into 2025. Now, a few months on, where do things stand? When will this war end? And a related question, please. A year ago, you were fitted with a pacemaker. I believe at times you were fitted with a halter to monitor the pacemaker. You said yesterday you sleep 2 hours a night. In your televised briefing, you get a couple hours
Did I
sleep.
say 2 hours on it? I'll correct that.
That may have been in jest. Nonetheless, you're under enormous stress. Given the course of the war, given it appears to be open-ended, given the march of time, do you believe you're in a position to sustain the management of this war?
Sorry, your first question was?
First question was about the timeline for the war, given that you said in April it was a step away, you were a step away from victory, and then a month later, your national security advisor said it would last into the coming year.
Thank you. What I said, or what I meant to say, was that we're a step away from the critical thing that will pave our way to victory. I didn't think that we could have this victory if we didn't go into Rafah. And I withstood quite a bit of international pressure and American pressure to go into Rafah and to Philadelphia. I thought there's no way we can end this war without it, for the reasons I explained. So we did it. I said this before we completed this task.
I just want to clarify one thing. The Philadelphia corridor is a corridor between Gaza and Egypt, and the reason why it's so important is because if Israel doesn't control that corridor, weapons as well as different ways to attack Israel are pushed through that corridor into Gaza. So from Egypt into Gaza, there are illegal tunnels. Either the Egyptian government doesn't care, or they actually facilitate this, and it avoids Israel being able to sort of cut off their supply of weapons, etc.
And we did indeed complete this task, and now we're in a position to destroy Hamas militarily. There's still work to be done to destroy its governance capability. Primarily, I don't want to run Gaza, but I want to take away from Hamas the key thing that they have, other than the military, which we're destroying. We're killing their certain senior commanders, we're killing their operators, we're destroying their tunnels, we're destroying their weapons manufacturing capability. We're stopping the cash. They don't have any cash. We found millions and millions of shekels in cash in these tunnels. They don't have any more cash. Part of the reason they're squeezed is because we control their money machine, which was the Rafah crossing. They don't have that. So we're choking them. But there's one thing that they have, which is the distribution of food. They basically, we let the trucks come in. We let all those trucks come in. And Hamas' strategy is to steal, hoard, and gouge. That's what they do. They take the food, they take exorbitant prices. They steal the food, charge exorbitant prices from Gaza, from the Gaza population. And that's how they they hope to continue to survive. And we have to take that away from them. Again, I don't want to run Gaza, I don't want to administer Gaza, but I want to take this away from them. So we still have to do that, but we're well ahead in our program for victory, which we'll achieve, than we were a few months ago, and when I said what I said, I was right. The second question you ask is, how long can you do this? As long as it takes to achieve this victory, and I think we're getting a lot closer, and as long as the people of Israel entrust it to me, that's all. As far as my health is concerned, it's fine.
Sky News.
Yeah, and asking about his health in a way to sort of say like, okay, you're tired, just stop doing the war is pretty inappropriate, to be honest. And actually, get well, Netanyahu, because he's recovering from I think something to do with his prostate. I think they did an operation on his prostate just now, so blessings for Netanyahu. I believe that he's recovered already, but he definitely did just do an operation.
Private South Bank Sky News. I don't know whether we can see that wider map of Israel again, whether it's technically
Yeah,
possible
go
to
ahead.
get it back up on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, show it.
All right, so this is an absolutely outrageous question that a reporter asked Netanyahu, trying to just sort of, I guess, bait him into losing his temper. And Netanyahu's response is perfect. Check it out.
You said at the beginning, the slightly wide one. No, a bit wider. There we go. You said at the beginning of your speech that Hamas and others in the Middle East want to wipe Israel off the map. You have literally wiped the West Bank off that map. Is that official policy now, that the West Bank doesn't exist?
No, I didn't include the Dead Sea. It's not shown in the map. I didn't show the Jordan River. It's on this map. I didn't show the Sea of Galilee.
But those
It's
are
on that map.
geographical features. This is a population of
Well,
2
I
million
didn't
Palestinians who live there.
didn't get into that. I was talking about Gaza. There is a whole issue of what to do, how to achieve peace between us and the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. I didn't get into that. That's another press conference. I'll be happy to do it. To wipe out some of the misconceptions and the slanders and lies that are directed at us. We don't intend to drive these people away. They want to drive us away. It's a big difference. Every day they target us. You know what they teach in the schools, in the PA schools? They teach exactly the same thing that they teach, the same textbooks, as in same textbooks here in the PA schools as here. Same thing. Israel has to be destroyed, kill as many Jews, pay for slay. The more Jews, the more Israelis you kill, the more you get paid. There's a difference in strategy. Hamas believes that the way to destroy Israel is through outright terror and military confrontation immediately, backed by Iran. It's all part of the Iranian axis. The Palestinian Authority believes that the way to do it is by ICC, by having lawfare, absurd charges leveled at Israel and its leaders, including me. Enormous pressure to drive Israel to indefensible boundaries, where the boundaries would be right here, right next to Tel Aviv, that's it. 8, 10 miles from the sea, and then push to the sea. There's a difference. But the goals are the same. No, I didn't show that, but if you want, Alistair, next press conference, I guarantee you can ask all the questions you want, and I'll give you the answers, the truth, the facts that your readers and viewers do not get. In this horrible harangue of this one democracy fighting this just war with just means against the most horrendous savages on the planet. And Israel is being condemned. Israel is being pilloried. Israel is being slandered. This is something that not only affects the Jewish people. 80 years after the Holocaust, when our enemies are openly declaring that they'll make another Holocaust, it also affects a beleaguered democracy that is fighting the battle of all democracies against these barbarians. So yes, I'll be happy to talk about the West Bank and the Palestinian Authority, you name it. And in fact, I'll let you name it, because one thing I do not fear is tough questions. And I hope you accept some direct answers.
Wow. Very, very brilliant, direct answer from Netanyahu there. Seems that he knows that reporter got a little heated there. And 100% Netanyahu is right. This whole idea that you should blame Israel for the fact that its enemies are evil is insanity. Israel's blamed for both Hamas issues, basically Hamas not protecting its own civilians, not feeding its own civilians, not doing anything to in fact, trying to maximize civilian casualties on their side. Somehow that's Israel's fault. Brilliant response from Netanyahu. Let's continue with the video.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, Antonio Pita, El País newspaper. First time I came here as a correspondent, it was 2007. I was here for 7 years, then I came back right before the elections. I find it hard to recall a speech in which you mentioned Philadelphia corridor, at least gave it a lot of importance. Why suddenly in the last few weeks it seems that the future of Israel depends on that? Thanks.
Now, I hope that it's your own recollection and not something that you heard on the news or in our, in some of our reporting. Netanyahu has not mentioned the Philadelphia corridor. All right. So here's what I said. Okay, when I resigned from Sharon's government because I couldn't agree with the policy, and so I resigned. I was finance minister, and I said to him in the resignation letter, I said, at least, you should stay in the Philadelphia corridor, because otherwise this is going to become Hamastan, which it did. Okay, and I talked about it before that too. Okay, and then now you talk about this war, right? We had a lot of discussions in security meetings about the Philadelphia corridor, about the smuggling, and we had an option. What do we do? What do we do about it? Because the only way to deal with it really was to conquer Gaza. But we knew we didn't have neither the domestic legitimacy nor the international legitimacy to do it. Look how much problem we have now after this worst savagery that was delivered to the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and we still have. Look at all the questions you're asking me. Look at all the international pressure that is put on Israel. So certainly we didn't have that legitimacy before the October 7th massacre. And so what we did was basically attack Hamas every time, attack it again and again and again. I, as Prime Minister, led 4 of these operations in which we killed 6,000 of their terrorists. We killed their military chief, Jabri was called, and others. But we didn't go in. The only way we could deal with the Philadelphia corridor was to conquer Gaza. And the only way we could conquer Gaza was to have the legitimacy that we lacked until October 7th happened. Once it happened, we went into Gaza, and guess what? The first time I talked about the Philadelphia corridor, I called it the southern Sugar Drumi, the southern barrier. I said, we need a southern barrier, okay? And we discussed 2 possibilities, one, the Philadelphia corridor, and one, 1 or 2 kilometers north of that's not important, okay? But it was clear you have to stop. Can you show that map again of the perforation? Yeah, no, not that one. Not that one either. We have to stop this. If we don't stop this, we've achieved nothing. So I spoke about it publicly. First time in November. When the war began, October, right? But that's my first public statement. Now, you should check this out. My research team, just by punching out, found 8 references every month about the southern corridor. I can tell you that in our internal discussions in the War Cabinet and in the General Cabinet, I talked about it a lot. So here again is a misrepresentation of fact. Oh, we're using this as a pretext. This is just a political ploy. It's not a political ploy. You have to be blind not to see this. I'm not blind, nor are the people of Israel. They overwhelmingly support keeping this corridor in our hands because they understand that this is something that we must do both to achieve our goal of winning the war, but also to put the pressure to release our hostages, and we'll do so. But I can tell you, it's not the first time that I talked about it.
So again, in that sort of clip, he showed all the weapons going into the Gaza Strip, flowing in from Egypt to the Gaza Strip. And that is exactly why they need the Philadelphia corridor, because they need to stop the weapons and stop the different, things going into the Gaza Strip, and even the terrorists going between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. And essentially, if you stop that, it cuts off Hamas from the, broader Arab world. So that's, 100% necessary for Israel to be very, very adamant on staying in the Philadelphia corridor. Despite the hostages, you need to stay in that corridor to avoid Hamas escaping somehow.
Patrick Kingsley, New York Times. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for this Patrick Kingsley, New York Times. Thank you for this press briefing. If the Philadelphia corridor was so important to you, why did the Israeli army not head for it first when you invaded Gaza in late October? If it was so important to you, why was it not even mentioned in the May 27th proposal that Israel made to the negotiators? If the disengagement from Gaza was so important to you, why did you personally vote for it at that time, before leaving government? And finally, you mentioned Israel not intending to administer Gaza after the war. Does that mean you can unequivocally rule out settling Gaza with Israeli civilians?
First off, the reason why he probably voted for the disengagement of Gaza in 2005 is because of idiots like you asking him hostile questions, telling him, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Oh, why don't you get out of Gaza? Why don't you make a ceasefire? Like barraging him with this media attack. Like, yeah, you know, when you're constantly under pressure from the world to do certain things, it is harder to stick to your principles. And then when you go back, you look like a hypocrite. But, you know, at least Netanyahu is trying to sort of right his wrongs in some respect. Again, I'm still not so much of a fan of Netanyahu because I think that he enabled terrorism a little bit, but he is trying to right his wrongs 100,000%. And let's see how he responds.
I don't have my pen here, so if you can give me a pen, I'll write down all these questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I explained that it was important enough that we had it. It was clear we were going to conquer all of Gaza, that we didn't have a choice. But the sequencing, and I won't get into the military consideration, which the cabinet accepted in this case. We were uniform on that. We didn't know when we go in what exactly would happen. We knew there was a vortex, a main nerve center in Gaza City, around the Shifa Hospital and elsewhere, and this was the progression that was there, was supposed to continue with one fell swoop. We had a lot of obstacles to get down to Rafah in the Philadelphia corridor. Took us about 3 months, but the idea was to do it very fast, and we did it. Now, once we've done it, obviously we're going to keep it. You ask why, if it was so important for you, did you vote for the disengagement? Number one, I voted in the Knesset for, I was finance minister. I wanted to do some important reforms that revolutionize the Israeli economy. You can see it in the skyline of Tel Aviv and Israel's other cities. Basically a free market reforms. And I was caught in a quandary because I wanted to complete those reforms, but I knew that once the government actually votes to tear out the communities and to get out, that's it. My reforms would be stymied. Israel would not have would not become the technological and economic powerhouse that it became. So the question was, and the government didn't quite do this. They were careful. The government in which I was a part, they basically said, okay, we haven't decided yet on whether we leave. What we're going to do is create the possibility by the Knesset bills that if we decide to leave, there will be compensation for those who leave. That was the vote, the famous vote that people show on television. So anyway, when the actual vote came in the cabinet to leave, I said, you have to stay in there. You cannot leave the Philadelphia corridor. And I resigned from the government. So I voted against it. That's important. You asked another question.
Why wasn't it even mentioned in the 27th of May proposal of the Philadelphia corridor? And secondly, can you rule out resettling Israeli civilians in Gaza after the war?
Well, the May 27th Israeli proposal, the May 27th American proposal, said that did not contradict in any way our going into the Rafah crossing. We talked with the Americans. We said in a number of conversations we have to deal with the southern barrier. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to deal with it. But it doesn't contradict. There's no contradiction between that and the May 27th proposal. And we're quite clear about it. And I think the Americans know our position quite well. As far as reselling, I don't think it's a realistic goal. I said it. I said it in front of my cabinet. I haven't changed my view. And the people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, brilliant responses. Netanyahu actually had a compliment from the great Elie Wiesel on his just ability to delineate his thoughts, his ability to speak incredibly well. And Elie Wiesel is, an unbelievable writer, academic, speaker as well, probably. But Netanyahu, his UN speeches, whenever he's dealing with the press, across the board, has always shown that he can just deliver words in probably one of the most eloquent ways, throughout the world, to be honest.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Marie Finoshina RT. Mr. Prime Minister, we've heard a lot today about Philadelphia Corridor. I have one very specific question.
What do you represent, sorry?
RT, Russia Today Television. Was the Israeli control over the Philadelphia Corridor ever mentioned in any of the versions of the deal that Hamas accepted? And today, is it the only obstacle to the deal, the only disagreement between the sides, or there are other disagreements? Thank you very much.
Well, there's a premise in your question that is simply wrong. You say, was it mentioned in the deal that Hamas accepted? Hamas didn't accept the deal. On the May 27th proposal, they had 29 changes, corrections, 29, which effectively vitiated any of them from any meaning. It was a rejection. In fact, a detailed rejection of the deal. So while we accepted it as is, we didn't make any changes, and I didn't bring any new condition. Anything that contradicts anything that is said there, Hamas basically wiped the floor with it. I mean, they wouldn't accept it. They didn't accept that, and they didn't accept the bridging proposal. And Al-Khia, who is the deputy, Sinwar's deputy, said 2 days ago, so we remain steadfast. What do we want? No, they didn't accept it. No, they didn't. Again, you want the facts, okay? So the fact is, they rejected the May 20th. They said they accepted it, but they have 27 or 29 rather corrections. That's like I don't know, the German government saying we accept the American proposal, but we're going to stay in Berlin. We're going to control Germany. You're going to go out, and we can resupply ourselves. But we accepted your proposal. It doesn't mean anything. They put in 29 corrections that essentially was a sound and detailed rejection of the deal. I don't care, how they frame it for public purposes. It's meaningless. We know the truth. And again, they flatly rejected the bridging proposal. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, Al-Khia flatly rejected it again. And he said, what does he say? He basically says, Israel has to get out, everything, including the Philadelphia corridor, and we can rearm ourselves and do October 7th again and again and again. So it's not that they accepted it. You asked the second question, which is?
Is Philadelphia Corridor and...
Oh, is it the only obstacle? No, it's not. In fact, everything. We have the Philadelphia corridor. We have the what's the ratio of hostages to civilians to terrorists who are released? Do we have a veto power over these terrorists because some of them committed the worst atrocities you can imagine? Should they come back to Judea, Samaria, or can we take them out of the country, and so on and so on and so on? I mean, the whole thing has not been resolved. Hamas has rejected everything. And we're trying to find some area to begin the negotiations. They refuse to do that. 2 days ago, he said, no, there's nothing to talk about. So I hope that changes, because I want those hostages out. I want those families, I want those mothers to see their loved ones. I don't want to see a repetition of what I saw in Ashkelon. These tortured souls. I want them to have happiness, just like the ones that we rescued. We were able to rescue. We brought 117 people alive. And by the way, I insisted in the first deal, we talked about 50. And I said, no. We're going to get 30 more out. And I talked to President Biden. He helped, and I appreciate it. And we brought it up from 50 to 80. That's 80 souls that came back to life. Their families came back to life. So, look, I'll do everything I can to get these people out. But the pressure should be directed where it belongs. It's not on Israel. It's on Hamas. Thank you all. You've been very, very patient. Thank you.
Let that be a lesson when you're dealing with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do not lie. And she tried to frame the question like Hamas are the big peace keepers. They're the ones that are looking for peace. And he just corrected that on air. Bibi Netanyahu, again, demonstrating that the media seems to be more intent on propagating Hamas talking points than on actually believing the only democratic state in the region. And brilliant job on all of those questions from Netanyahu. For more, subscribe to this channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored or subscribe to our channel memberships right here on this channel and get exclusive content daily. Again, for more, subscribe to this channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored and or subscribe to our channel memberships right here on this channel for more exclusive content. Thank you and have a good one.